You're listening to Season 3 of Straight Talk with Trevor. Wait a minute, can kids listen to this?
I don't think so. What's up, Straight Talk Society? This is your host, Trevor, and I'm back with another episode of Straight Talk with Trevor, the podcast where no topic is off limits. And as promised, I'm coming to you tonight with the Season 3 finale entitled 77 Days. On tonight's episode, I'm going to go step by step, almost day by day, and chronicle the first 77 days of my daughter's life that she actually spent in the hospital. So for 77 days, my wife and I had to travel back and forth to the hospital to see my daughter until the day she was released. And for years, even my former pastor, he would before he transitioned, he would always tell me, you need to write that. You need to write that as a book because you'll help so many people. And it's funny because I got a call earlier this week because I put a little teaser out on YouTube that I was going to be talking about this. And one of my friends that I hadn't seen since high school, we recently reconnected, but he called me and he was like, "Yo, dude, I didn't know that your daughter was a preemie." I'm like, "Yeah." And he was telling me, he was like, all of his kids were preemies. So we were just getting to talking and I was like, well, I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but it was just say this episode is going to be needed because the conversation that we had, he let me know that when it was going on, he felt all alone. And likewise with me, through the majority of the 77 days, I felt alone. And I want to talk about that tonight. But before I get into that, I got a special guest in the studio because it'd be crazy to do this show and not have the actual subject of the show in the studio. So in the studio with me, I have my little princess. What's up, baby?
What's up, Daddy?
How are you?
Good.
So, I was told that you want to sit in on this show with me. How come?
Because I have 3 questions to ask you about your childhood.
What's with you and your mom and these questions?
I don't know.
So, first of all, so you got a birthday coming up?
Yes.
How old are you going to be?
7.
Are you excited about that?
Yes.
How come?
Because it's a trampoline park and...
So you don't really care about that you turning 7. You just...
I care about the presents, the cake, the friends, the everything about my birthday.
Okay, that's good. Have you been a good girl to deserve a birthday party?
Yep.
Okay. Well, yeah, you have been a really good girl. So, and you're turning 7. Actually, I had my first birthday party when I turned 7. And I think I still have the picture. I'm going to go look in one of my photo albums and see if I have it. But yeah, my first birthday party was when I was 7. And you're probably on birthday party number 4 or 5 now? And she just shrugs her shoulders. That's how these kids are nowadays.
And I'm like, how? How did you only have one birthday and it was your 7th?
That was when I had my first birthday party.
Oh, why was it just your first birthday party?
Because parents back then weren't like parents now, where we try to throw you guys birthday parties for every birthday. Back then, they didn't do that. So I had my first birthday party when I was 7. So anyway, you got some questions for me. You made these questions up by yourself?
No.
You didn't.
Mommy helped me.
Mommy helped you? Okay. All right. I'm ready. Shoot.
So these questions. The first one. What did you want to be when you grew up?
I can't tell you the real answer because this is a PG version of the show. But my second choice, no, you know what? Actually, growing up, I wanted to be 2 things. I wanted to be an astronaut because I'm just so fascinated with space. I wanted to be an astronaut, and then I wanted to always be a wrestler. Like I always envisioned myself as being the WWF champion, but obviously that never happened.
Well, you fight a lot.
No.
Well, that is true. You do fight sometimes. Okay, next question. Who was your best childhood friend?
So, contrary to popular belief, my best childhood friend has always been my brother Jermaine. Yeah, he's always been my best friend as a child.
The third question. What would be your superpower?
What would be my superpower? Well, my favorite superhero is Batman. And since he doesn't have any superpower, I guess I can't use anything from him. So next it would be the Incredible Hulk. Like I'm just crazy about that superhuman strength, just being indestructible like that. So yeah, I'd say the Hulk.
I have two favorite superheroes that I like.
Oh God, what's your favorite superhero?
I have Wonder Woman
Wonder Woman
and Spider-Man.
Oh jeez, Spider. Why do you like Spider-Man?
I don't know.
I think Spider-Man is the lamest superhero there is. I would have picked Aquaman before I picked Spider-Man.
No, why would you pick Aquaman?
Oh jeez, I just think
Why?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man's cool.
What else you want to talk about?
More things about my birthday.
Go ahead. You got 2 minutes. So what do you got to talk about? What do you want to talk about?
My
So you haven't well, I guess I want to ask you. Do you have a crush in school?
Yes.
Who is it? You're not gonna tell me, huh?
It's private.
It's private. Does he know? No, he doesn't know. Oh boy, that's what I
I might tell him at my birthday.
Oh jeez.
Because he's invited.
Oh, he's coming to your birthday party? Yeah, I'll put a stop to that right then and there.
Really, dude?
Oh.
He's my friend / crush.
Oh boy, I wasn't ready for this.
Well, you asked me that question.
I really wasn't ready for this. So, all right. Well, I hope you're ready for your party Saturday. When's your birthday party?
Saturday.
Sunday. Yeah, I get these birthdays mixed up because your mom's birthday is Saturday,
26th,
and then yours is the next day. So I get these things mixed up sometimes, but I hope you're ready for it, and I hope you have a lot of fun.
Thank you. And I already know my present will be for me. It's teaching me how to ride that hoverboard of mine.
Yeah, well, because I told you I'm not buying you anything.
Yeah,
because,
so you just gotta help me do something that I already have.
Yeah, because I just bought you that new phone, so I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not buying you anything else for your birthday. So, well, Daddy's gonna do his show. So, anything else you want to say to the people?
Bye.
All right. Hopefully, I'm pretty sure everybody's gonna be wishing you a happy birthday. So, thanks for coming by.
You're welcome.
What's up, world? It's your boy Trevor. It's Wednesday, October 29th, 2014. The reason for this video, 2 days ago, when we got back from Atlanta, my wife and I, we found out that we're gonna have a baby. So anybody who knows me, you know that all I've ever wanted was a child. You know, I just can't begin to explain the joy that I felt when she told me. And then we, got it confirmed the following day.
So I kind of want to just do this video just to chronicle the changes that are taking place, not only in my wife, but me, you know, because a lot of times there's not really a detailed account of how the fathers have to deal with things. You know, the wife goes through all the bodily changes, but a lot of that goes down on the father too. And since this is both of ours first child, I thought this would be the best time to do this video. We don't know how far along we are right now. We're thinking maybe in the 5 to 6 week range. We have a doctor's appointment set up next week, so we'll find out how far along we really are. So you probably won't see this video for a couple of weeks.
What's up, fam? It's Saturday, March 29th. No, sorry. Saturday, March 28th, 2015, like roughly about 9:50 in the morning. This is Daddy Chronicles, episode 12. I'm sitting in the parking lot right now of Holy Cross Hospital. The reason why I'm here is yesterday evening when I got home, like around 1:30, I saw my wife balled up on the floor crying. So I rushed her to the emergency room, and our little princess decided she couldn't wait anymore. She wanted to meet us early. So yeah, Leia is here. She, you know, she's a preemie, delivered at 26 and a half weeks, but she came out a little under 3 pounds and 14 and a half inches long. Lenidra's resting right now, and I'm heading over to the NICU unit that Leia's in. To say that this is, I literally feel like I'm watching myself in a movie. I've seen this type of stuff happen on TV shows and things like that, and I just never think that that's gonna be me. That's gonna be me. Last night is the first time ever in my life, I'm 35 years old, that I spent the night in the hospital. But my wife is fine, just under a little pain. The doctors over at NICU called me last night and told me that the baby's stable, so I'm going over there now to go spend some time with her. All I can say is God is good, because yesterday I was planning, we were going on a road trip, a weekend getaway, literally. That's why I left work early yesterday. I had planned this for like 3 weeks, that I was going to take her on a surprise trip to go see her best friend, and things change. And I'm glad that things changed the way they did, because can you imagine if we were on the turnpike and this happened? I wouldn't know what to do. So everything happens in God's perfect time. And, you know, the surgeons and everything told me last night that the size that Leia came out is really good. Premature girls generally do better because they're fighters. That her color was good. She didn't really need that much assistance from the breathing machine. So now it's just, we need her to just get bigger and stronger. And I don't know. I got so many emotions right now. The whole time I'm sitting in the hospital room with Lenidra, and she's looking at me screaming, and I just had to keep like this stone cold face, because I didn't want to show any type of emotion, because I didn't want her to think that I was, you know, breaking down, because then she would have been more concerned about me and not really on herself. So I had to keep this stone cold face. And like the assuring thing is, when they wheeled Leia past me in the little incubator thing, she opened her eyes and looked at me like and it was just Monday that I said that I touched her stomach and she kicked me, and I guess she was telling me, Daddy, I'm coming to see you soon, you know. She opened those little eyes and looked at me, and you know, I don't know, man. All I can say is God is still in control. I mean, that's all I believe in. You know, Holy Cross and Broward General may have doctors and surgeons, but I know who the healer is. And, you know, I know my baby's going to be fine. I know my wife is going to be fine. And a couple of months down the line, we'll be able to look at this, and, you know, she just was so beautiful just in that little incubator, just breathing, and she's already got me wrapped around her fingers. I'll keep you guys updated as to any changes or anything. Peace. I still get excuse me, I still get choked up when I watch those videos. It's been a while, but I thought for this episode that it was necessary to play. I didn't play the full of the first one, but I thought it was necessary still to play those videos just so you guys could know how long I've been chronicling the anticipation of my daughter's arrival. So, you know, this show is entitled 77 Days, and tonight I'm going to talk very openly and honestly about the 77 days that my daughter spent in the hospital. I'm going to touch on things that were going on with her, but I'm going to go a little in depth about what was really going on with me. I hope you guys enjoyed the last episode that we did. You got a lot of laughing and joking in that one, but tonight I'm about to bare my soul. So, 7 years ago, well, let's go back to the beginning. So, you know, me and my wife got together and I always get this wrong, but I want to say the new year of 2012. And once we got serious and everything, we'd been doing what adults do, and we got married in 2013, and we never, just for some reason, we could never conceive. It didn't matter what we did. I mean, we read everything. She would give me oysters to eat. We'd do this, and she didn't mind me saying this. She'd like almost freaking stand on her head. You know, just whatever you could do to conceive. And for a while we were getting frustrated, like very frustrated, because what happened, and I know I know somebody out there could feel me, but what happens when a young couple is trying to conceive, it kind of takes, like, when it's so hard, it kind of takes the joy out of sex, and it then becomes a job. So it's like you feel like you're on a schedule versus things just happening. And that's kind of how it felt. And so fast forward, my brother's cancer came back, and we went to Atlanta to go and see him. And on the way, I noticed on the drive going, my wife just acting weird. She wasn't her same old self. You know, she just seemed extra tired and things like that. Now, in the back of my mind, because you guys know in my show, I bare soul. I tell you everything. I don't hold things back because I like to be transparent with my audience. Every time I knew her cycle was coming on, I would get anxious because I was hoping that this would finally be the month that it didn't come on. I was just hoping that, here it is. We finally gonna find out, like, hey, we're having a baby. We're having a baby. And every time her cycle came on, I would just be so defeated. Like I just, I almost felt like less of a man. Like here I am in fairly good health, and I can't, we're very regular sexually, and I can't get my wife pregnant for anything. So we ended up going to Atlanta, and like I say, she just was just acting just different because I noticed everything about her. So on the way back, we she was like, let's stop by Walgreens, so I can get a pregnancy test. And I, again, I'm like, hey man, we've been trying for so long. What's the bother, man? I don't want to be disappointed again. Because every time those disappointments they just stack up, they just stack up with every negative test, and you think this might be it, then you find out, oh no, it's still not it. That cycle may be 1 or 2 days late, and you're like, oh man, this is it, and then it's still not it. And I was just like, what's the sense? Like, why are we even doing this to ourselves? And ironically, the funny thing though, I think she had made an appointment for that Monday. So we got back that Sunday night. I think she had made an appointment for that Monday for us to go sit down with a fertility doctor, one of those, I don't, what do they call them, in vitro or something like that. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but one of those type of doctors. And so I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I took her by Walgreens. We got the test, and at the time we were living in our apartment, and she went up ahead. So I went up, opened the door, whatever. She was inside. I went back downstairs to get what bags were left in the car. And when I tell you, it was like the scene straight out of a Tyler Perry movie, or just any romantic love movie. I had 2 bags in my hand. I opened the door, and there my wife was standing with this pregnancy test in her hand. And she just looked at me with tears in her eyes and told me that it was positive. And I mean, at that point, I was like, man, you got to be kidding me. Because I had started building up in my mind that this was never going to happen. That we were going to just be okay with it just being us. And we weren't going to have kids. And I had got a real defeatist attitude, man. And it was just like, when she showed me that test, I was just like, finally, man, finally. So, we wanted to get it confirmed. I want to say she took another test, but then she called her doctor and went and got a blood test and everything, and it was confirmed that she was like 5 to 6 weeks along. So in this, so now my daddy mode is just completely turned on now, because now I love her more. I love her more than ever now, because now she's carrying my child. So I have to protect her, make sure everything's all right. And then that Superman complex of mine just kicks in, and then I just go into protection mode, and then I go into nesting mode. Is this going to be okay for the baby? We start buying everything, like cribs and strollers and things like that. So we went to get the sonogram. That's what you call it. Yeah, we went to go get the sonogram, and I want you guys just to realize how difficult this pregnancy was. So we went to get the sonogram, and the tech was just searching and searching. Now, granted, I had just saw a positive pregnancy test, and now this tech is just searching and searching, and she can't find our baby. I mean, she's just searching and searching because they're, and she just cannot find the baby. And again, I got to put on this front where I had to put on this stone cold look where I'm just, I'm just looking straight, and I can't show any real emotion because I don't want my wife to panic. And it was just finally, I think they told us that we had to come back. I can't remember because it was 7 years ago, but I think they told us we had to come back, or they told we had to come back another day, or we had to wait a couple of hours, something to that effect. But I just remember them sending us across the street to go buy orange juice because they said orange juice would make the baby active or something like that, so they could see it. But anyway, they did it again, still couldn't see the baby. And then finally, another tech in there was like, okay, let me do this. She went against everything that they were supposed to do because she felt the pain. Like, she really felt the pain and started to see what it was doing to us. And she checked for the baby another way. And I never forget, she was like, there's that little Mexican jumping bean. So that was the first time I saw my little Leia just bouncing around, just a little bean, just bouncing around, not even formed, nothing, just a little bean. But it just put me in a mode again. Like, man, this is really happening. I am finally gonna be a dad. Like and you guys know on my show how hard I am on dads that don't take care of their kids. So I hope tonight you realize why I am that way, why I feel that way towards deadbeat dads and dads who don't want anything to do with their kids. So, the time's going on, and like I say, this pregnancy just it wasn't great. So you see sometimes you see people and their pregnancy just so glamorous, and they're just, everything's good, and it wasn't like that for us. Like, my wife should have been on bed rest probably within a month after getting pregnant because her doctor just was not very good. Her doctor was okay, I guess, to check on physicals and stuff like that, but as far as being a doctor to a pregnant woman, she was terrible. She was terrible. I mean, I never miss a doctor's visit. I was there for everything, and because the age that that my wife was 35. I mean, I'm 35 too, so I wouldn't make it seem like she was old. But because of the age that she is, they considered it a high risk pregnancy, so we had to do a lot of doctor visits and things like that. So I was taking the time off. I was leaving work early because I wanted to be there every single step of the way. I had a notebook where I would ask the doctor questions, and it's like, man, I'm just thinking to myself, like, why am I asking this doctor these questions? Why isn't she just freely offering up this information to me? I was just thinking in my mind, like, what the hell kind of doctor is this? So, things happen though. I mean, like I say, I'm a dude with a microphone. I can't tell a doctor how to be a doctor, but I just felt like she should have, I feel like, cared a little bit more. So, let's fast forward into this. And so now my wife is, something happened. She wasn't feeling good. My wife wasn't feeling good. So she got admitted into the hospital. We had to rush her to the emergency room. And because so wait a minute. No, right here. This is what happened. So it was Thanksgiving of 2014. Yeah. Thanksgiving of 2014 we were all over the family's house for dinner, and just having a good old time, man. Just flicking it up, taking pictures and things, hashtagging the Johnsons +1, with my hand on the little baby bump and stuff like that. I was just so happy, man. Just so happy that I finally was going to be a dad. And man, it's like trouble just seemed to always follow us during this pregnancy. So my wife went to the bathroom, and then a couple minutes later, one of her little cousins came out and got me. He was like, "You gotta hurry up! You gotta hurry up! Nidra's in the bathroom. She needs you. She needs you." I go in there, and it's just a big blob of blood, and I'm like, "Oh God!" In my mind again, but I can't say what I'm thinking. But in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, did she just miscarry this baby? Did something bad just happen? And I was like, man, how could you get so close and yet be so far? So we had to rush her to the hospital. Everything ended up being all right. And I want to say, I don't think it was that visit. It could have been another visit after that, where she had to go back to the hospital again. Like I say, this pregnancy was just not good. It was not fun at all. And so we go to the hospital again, and they ran whatever test they had to run on her and saw that she was okay. And then the tech was like, do you want to know the sex of the baby? And we're like, well, we never planned on keeping it a secret. So we were just like, okay, let's go. So the tech brought in this old ancient behind looking sonogram machine. And he even said, he was like, well, this isn't the best, but it'll get the job done. So he's searching and searching, and he tells us, he says, "You ready?" We're like, "Yeah." He said, "You're having a little boy." He says, "You're having a little boy." So now I go in my mind like, oh man, I'm about to have a little junior, I'm gonna teach him this, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do that. It just was weird though, because my wife never seemed settled on that. Like, I mean, not that she didn't want a boy, but she just never seemed settled on the results. Like, she was just like, man, I don't know what it was. Call it women's intuition or what. She never seemed settled on it. So she made an appointment for one of those gender reveal type things where you go and they have you in this nice room, and they tell you the sex of the baby. So the whole time I'm there, I'm like, well, this is just a big waste of time, a waste of money. We had a doctor already tell us that we're having a boy. So we're sitting in this nice behind room, man. I wish the place was still open, because it was just so accommodating. A nice room, and they broadcast it to your family members if you want. They do the cast of the mold of the stomach and everything. So we're in the room, and the tech comes in, and she's doing what she's doing, and here I am. I'm like, I just go ahead and confirm it, because we already know that we're having a little boy. And then she's like, okay. So she does her thing, and we're just sitting there. I'm like off in the corner, and my wife and my mother-in-law are next to each other. So she was like, "Oh, I hear the tech say, oh, like oh crap." And we all look up like, "What's up?" She said, "You ready to hear something?" And it's like, "Yeah, go ahead." I'm like, "Go ahead and tell me. Go ahead and confirm it." She was like, "You see this right here?" So I walk over there, and she's like, "You see this little thing right here?" I said, "Yeah, that's his little thing." She was like, "Not quite." She said, "You see how those little lips form?" She said, "You're having a little girl." And I was like, oh shit. I just bust out crying because, listen, and those that are close to me know that for whatever reason, I always wanted a daughter. I mean, like most people grow up and they want sons, but I always wanted a daughter. And I think the reason why I always wanted a daughter just because I wanted somebody that I could love, like somebody that I could show a better version of myself. I wanted a daughter because I could show the better version of myself that wasn't with all the BS, that didn't treat women like crap, that I would treat this little girl like a princess, man. And I'm just over there bawling, like, man, I'm having a daughter. Finally, I'm gonna have a daughter. So fast forward and everything, and so we're going through the pregnancy, and like I say, my wife, she's always sick, not feeling good. She lost her appetite, things like that. She was losing weight and things like that. She's probably really, really stressed out. So I decide on her birthday. Actually, her birthday is the day before my daughter's birthday. So my daughter's birthday is the 27th, and my wife's birthday is the 26th. So I decide that I called her best friend like weeks before, and I was like, you know what? She's not, she hasn't really been herself and everything. Let's plan I'm gonna plan a surprise trip, and I'm gonna bring her up there for the weekend because their birthdays, I want to say their birthdays are the same day, or their birthdays are a day apart. Yeah, that's it. Their birthdays are a day apart from each other. So I'm like, oh man, it'll be cool if we come up there and you guys celebrate your birthdays together because they're best friends. And she's like, oh yeah, cool, that's a great idea. So I call my wife, and everything's set. I'm at work, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna leave work early. I leave work about 1 o'clock so we can get on the road and be there before it got dark. I come home and my wife is like balled up on the floor. I'm like, oh, this doesn't seem good. So I'm asking her, what's wrong? What's wrong? And she's telling me, oh, how she doesn't feel good. Her stomach is hurting really bad and this and that. And she's like, oh, and here she is because she wants to go see her friend. She's like, oh, but I'll be okay. Just let me pop some pills and I'll be okay. Let me, we can get on the road. And I'm like, well, shit, no, you're not getting on the road. What are you talking about? She's like, no, I'll be okay. And then the same breath, she's just screaming so everybody could hear. I'm like, you know what? No, we're going to the hospital. So I finally convinced her to get to the hospital. We're going to the hospital. And as I'm driving, the pain is just getting worse and worse. And she's just screaming and screaming and screaming. And I'm just driving. I mean, I'm doing probably like 80 or 90 in the residential area, in a residential neighborhood, just trying to get her to the hospital. And so we get to the hospital and they finally get her in a room and everything. She's just screaming and I'm just sitting there again, stone face, not showing any emotion. I hope you guys realize what's happening to me now. I'm starting to build up a barrier where everything bad that's happening, I'm holding it all in because I feel like I have to still be strong for her where she can't see me react to anything. So so they have her in the emergency room, and and I'm in there too, but they have me like kind of shielded off, and all I hear is screaming, and they're like, oh no, I just hear them saying, we got to get her into surgery. And I'm like, whoa, what, like, what the hell are you talking about? Get her into surgery. It's just March. It's March and my daughter's not due until June. Like what's going on? And I will come back and get you when, once we get everything under control. We'll come back and get you. So they wheeled her off, and and I mean, it all played out like a movie. They wheeled her off, and now here I am sitting in this hospital room alone. Never been in a hospital before. by myself. I've gone to visit people, and a few times I had to take my wife. I'm sitting in this hospital room alone, and I'm like, man, I just watched them wheel my best friend out of this room, and I have no idea. I got no idea what to do. And the only thing I could have thought to do was pick up the phone and call Overseer Barr. And I told him what was going on. And I didn't call my dad. I didn't call my mom. The first person I called was Overseer Barr. And I told him, I said, look, man, I said, I'm so scared, man. I don't know. I'm like, I don't know what's going on because they're not telling me anything. It'll be one thing if they told me something, then I could say, well, I know what to expect, or I know, what's going on. They aren't telling me anything. The only thing they said was they'll be back to come and get me. And I'm talking to him and I'm telling them the situation, and he was heading out of town, or else he would have came. And he told me, he was like, listen, he said, I already taught you enough. He said, you know what you got to do now. He said, it's time. He said, it's time for you to stand up and be a man for your family. He said, you got to stand up. You got to stand in the gap right now. And he'll try to get to me as soon as possible. So a couple minutes later, the nurses come back in and they're like, all right, we got to get you scrubbed up. Because we're going to take you in. They said, your wife, she's coming out of it soon. Like, she's starting to wake up. Still, they haven't told me what happened, but they're like, come on, we got to get you scrubbed in and everything like that. So you could go see the baby. I said, see the what? I was like, yeah. I said, your daughter is here. I said, my daughter wasn't supposed to be born until June. Like, what are you talking about? How is my daughter here? We're in March. I said, well, sir, it happens sometimes. Your daughter's here. So I go in the room where they had her, and they got my wife like laid out on this table on the bed, and then they wheel this cart, and I see this little tiny little thing inside of a plastic bag. And I'm just looking like, what in the hell is going on? Why am I in this nightmare? Why is my daughter inside of a plastic bag? And the doctor came in. It was an Indian guy, man. So he had this thick accent. I couldn't understand anything he was saying. But he was telling me, all I heard was, we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that she makes it. And I walked over to the little incubator that they had her in, and I just looked at her. I'm looking, my baby wasn't even formed good yet. She still had the translucent skin so you could see everything, and she had that big alienation head, and it's just like she wasn't even formed. And I'm just sitting there like, what is going on? Like, what? Like, we're good people, man. This stuff like this doesn't happen to people like us. And my daughter she just happened to open her eyes and just look up at me. And that look was just like, Daddy, I'm gonna be all right. I need you though. And they came to me and they were like, well, the level of this NICU isn't. I think the level NICU was a level 2, and she needed to be like in a level 4 or something to that effect. So they had to transport her from Holy Cross, where she was born, to Broward Health. Now, granted, I don't know anything about this. I don't know about the NICU, or I don't know anything about this. And then the one person who has always been there with me to, if anything went bad, now she's incapacitated. So like, I really have to do all this by myself now. And I got people, they're pushing papers in my face. Oh, we need your authorization for this. We need your authorization for this. We need your authorization just in case this goes wrong. Or if we have to resuscitate, if we have to do this. And I'm just like, man, what? Oh. So they finally transferred my daughter over to Holy Cross. I mean to Broward Health. And by that time, some of the family members had shown up, and everybody's talking to me, and I'm just like, man, I don't know what to do, man. Like, it's bad enough. I didn't think I was going to be able to be a good parent, but now I got to be a parent and deal with this. I don't know what to do. And again, my wife is incapacitated. So it's like the one person who I could be like, man, we'll figure this out. We could get through this together. She's loopy. She doesn't know what the hell's going on. So, and then here's the kicker too. They had my wife stay at Holy Cross, and they transferred my daughter over to Broward Health. So now I had to go. They told me they didn't let me ride with her, but they told me that they'd be contacting me and let me know, what was going on, when I could come see her. So I finally got the call. I want to say close to midnight. They called me and they were like, we admitted her into NICU, and you can come see her. You can come see her in the morning and things like that. And it's just like, man, I was home that night all alone by myself. I didn't even sleep in I didn't even sleep in the room, because I was like, I'm not sleeping in that room until my wife is back home. So I go to Broward Health in the morning to go see my daughter, and they're like, all right, we got to warn you, this might be overwhelming, because obviously you've never seen anything like this before. And I'm just they're trying to prepare me. And I go in, and they're like, she's right over here. And and then the thing they're telling me, they're like, oh man, make sure you take a bunch of pictures. I'm like, take a bunch of pictures? Why do I want to take pictures of my daughter looking like this? She's not even formed all the way yet. And it's just like, I still can't wrap my head around everything that's going on. And I'm just standing here looking at my daughter through a glass, through a incubator. They have something on her eyes. They have the, let me see if I remember, what do they call them? They have the Billy light on her, because her skin, again, her legs were all bruised up because apparently she was breached. So her legs slipped out, and then they had to pull her through. They had to do an emergency C-section and pull her through, so it bruised up her legs. And I'm just looking at this 2 pound, 9 ounce baby, 2 pounds, 9 ounces, 26 weeks old. And I lost it. See, what I've learned to do, I've learned to admit when I'm just powerless and weak. I'm always able to control the situation, or I'm always able to be the Superman. I'm always able to be the superhero, and I could always, come in right at the clutch. But here's a time where I can't do a damn thing. My daughter's in the hospital fighting for her life. My wife is in another hospital not knowing what's going on. And everything in my head is telling me, just maybe if you weren't here, then things would just get better. I don't know how that happened, but I don't know why that was the extreme, but it was. And there's this big glass at the hospital, and I had to fight the urge to try to run and jump through it, because for some reason I just felt like if I wasn't here, then maybe it would have sped my daughter up being out of there, or I just felt like maybe it was some type of punishment for something that I did, that now this is happening. And I realized today how selfish that was, and I'm glad. I'm glad I never did it, because I'd miss out on the greatest gift in the world. But I had that weakness where I was just like, man, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I don't have my wife. I don't know what's going on with her. She's in another hospital, and I don't know if my daughter's going to make it. And I just don't want to be here anymore. I think I'm a cut right here. I'm gonna cut right here and get a word from the sponsor, and let me try to compose myself. I'll be right back.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. You heard me, it's free. What's better than that, right? Anchor also makes it easy by giving you creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more listening platforms. Best of all, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started so that your voice can be heard.
And I'm back. Man, I knew this was going to be a hard one, just because the nature of it and everything. But the reason why I wanted to do this is because my old pastor, overseer Barr, used to always tell me that I should write a book about this, just as a guide to help men that have to go through this similar situation. But like I said, I'm not a writer or anything, but what I can do is get in front of this microphone and let everything just hang out. But it's funny, one of my partners that I've known ever since elementary school, he found out about it just based off of a little promo that I did on YouTube. And he called me and he was like, man, I never knew any other men that went through that. I went through it 4 times. And I was like, man, I wish when I was going through this, I had another man that I could reach out to. Because it's one thing as men women have that support system because when you look at it, you look at the NICU, all I saw was women in there. I didn't see any dads in there. If there was 30 babies in there, I may have saw 3 dads at the most at any given time. And the women were always there just talking to each other and just as a shoulder to lean on and everything. And the dads, we were just there looking like, the hell am I going to do? So I finally get over to the hospital to go see my wife. And I guess she saw what was going on. And she told me she was like, baby, just go home. Just because I had been going back and forth, hospital to hospital, hospital to hospital. And she was like, baby, just go home. And I was like, nah, I can't. I need to be here for you guys. I can't go home. And then she was like, please for me, just please go home. And I went home and it happened to be WrestleMania weekend of all things. And anybody who knows me, I'm a huge wrestling fan. Not so much anymore, but at the time I still was really, really big into it. And it happened to be WrestleMania weekend. And I even had to tweet. I think I tweeted the WWE and they retweeted it a whole bunch of times because I told them, I said, listen, I explained what was going on. And I said, even with all the hell going on in my life, at least the WWE gave me something for 4 hours to take my mind off of what I was dealing with. And so, and I think kind of that's why I still mess with them the way I do. Like I could never fully give it up just because they don't know me. I mean, it was a planned WrestleMania weekend. But just the fact that it happened to fall on this weekend of all weekends, and it was just something that could take my mind off of things just for a little bit. And it was one of the better shows that I'd done in a long, long, long time. So now everything happens. The reality sets in. So we had to make a plan now. My wife, I want to say she was off for like the next couple of months because she was the FMLA type thing or whatever. And so I'd be going to work and she'd be home just pumping milk because they said, hey, just pump your milk so you could feed so we could bring for the baby and everything. I'd call the hospital every morning on my 10 o'clock break to get updates of what was going on with my daughter. I'd report the updates to my wife. She'd call the hospital before we went to bed that night to get her set of updates. And it just went on. It just went on and on like that. When I got home from work, it was work, home, shower, hospital. And we did that for 77 days straight. And it was trying, man, because you have this team. So you have the head doctor, and then you'll have the nurse, and then you have some understudies, I guess. And everybody's just throwing out all these terms at you. And they'd say, and then what they'll tell you, whatever you do, don't Google anything. Because if you Google things, it's just going to scare you. And so they tell us don't Google anything. And what the hell do? We go and Google things. So my daughter had a brain bleed. She had a condition, I forget the name of it, but where something about a missing septum or something like that. I could be butchering this, but basically there's a piece of her brain that was missing. And they told us, like, man, you're gonna have she's probably gonna be slow, like they told us this. And my wife again just breaking down crying. And here I am again. I gotta cry on the inside. Because I'm trying to be there for her, man. I'm trying to be that rock for her. But at the same time, man, I'm dying, man. I'm just dying because here I am now. I'm like, God, not only is my baby premature, but now my baby's going to has some type of mental retardation now because they're prepping. I mean, and they have to. So they're prepping us for all this stuff. And they're like, this is probably what's going to happen. But don't worry about it right now. We'll as it comes, we'll deal with it. So the days pass, and you can see her starting to form into something now. Everybody say, "Oh, baby looks like mommy." The baby didn't look like anybody. The baby didn't even look like a real baby at the time yet. She still was looking like, you guys know my daughter now. She's beautiful, beautiful thing in the world. But I mean, let's face it, when she was born, I could laugh at it now, but man, so it's like, they told us that it was, that it was the eye day and everything. So the eye doctor was going to come in, and the eye doctor was going to check them out and things like that. So we get to the hospital that night, and they're just looking at us. And then, like, the doctors come around and, like, we got to talk to you. I'm like, oh, shit. It's like, well, so the eye doctor's reports, your daughter has a condition called ROP. I don't remember what it stands for, but what that is that the veins, something didn't connect. So they're saying that she was probably going to have some type of corrective surgery at some point or wear glasses. And it was just like one gut punch after another. First, she has a brain bleed. Then she has a part of her brain missing. Now they're telling us her eyes aren't fully developed. And it was just like, man. Then on top of that, she's hooked up to these machines, and you just, you hear these buzzers just constantly going off. She would Brady a lot, where her heart rate would fall below a certain amount, and it was, and I'm just sitting there like, man, why is my daughter suffering like this? I'm like, what? Like, seriously, what did she do? And I'm just starting to think, like, man, is the sins of the father, like, really, like, is it really that strong? Is the sins of the father really coming back on my daughter? And again, I'm like, man, you know what? If it's all that, just take me. Just take me, man. I'll go. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore, man. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of going to the hospital every day. I'm tired of seeing my daughter like this. I'm just tired, man. And, so we going to the hospital. I forget how long in it was, but they asked me if I wanted to hold her. And, well, no, because I had started holding her, but I was afraid to hold her because I was afraid to touch her because she was so little. But they asked me if I wanted to kangaroo care her. That's what it was. If I wanted to do like skin to skin contact, and I was like, no, I don't know about that. But then, my wife and the nurses convinced me to do it because they said it's good for the baby and things like that. So they took her, and for years, this picture was my profile picture before some lowlife hacked my Facebook account. But they put her inside of my shirt. So now here I am with my daughter skin to skin. And just the calmness that came over me. The calmness that came over me, and how she was so calm that she caused the machines to go off. And I remember before they took her out of my shirt, I told her, because I want to say that was the moment that I fell in love with my daughter. Like, just, that was the moment that bond was just formed. And I told her, I said, I would do anything in this world for you. That you're never gonna have to worry about your dad not being there for you. It was that moment. That very moment is when that's the moment that me and Leia just became what we are today. It was that very moment. So, more time passed, and I can't tell you the exact days and everything. That's why I'm not even trying to. But more time passed, and so she had to see different more specialists. And this particular time, the heart specialist came in. So more bad news. So the heart specialist was like, well, she has a heart murmur, which is, again, is not uncommon just because how early she was born. So it's like, whenever you see progress, she's making some type of progress, then a specialist will come in and kind of just give us one big swift kick in the private area with some condition that's going on. And again, I gotta cry in silence. Now, just so you guys know, my wife never asked me to do this. She never asked me to cry in silence. And truth be told, I think if you were to ask her, she would have rather me tell how I was feeling so we could cry together. But I'm big macho Superman, and I just felt like I had to have that Superman complex, and I had to still let her see me being this big strong guy, no matter how much it was killing me on the inside. And I don't care who you are, how much you love somebody or something like that, but it just wears on you. It wears on you, man. The constant just going to the hospital, going to the hospital every single day. It does something to you. I remember one particular time, I don't remember what she was doing, but I came home and I saw my wife. She could have been looking at her phone. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm like looking at my phone. And I said, man, put that stupid ass phone down. And just, I just like went off on her. And then she just turned around and looked at me. And she said, it's not stupid. I'm looking at pictures of Leia. Man, I was the frustration, I was turning into a monster, man. I was growing really cold to her. And it wasn't because of anything she did. It's just that I didn't know how to deal with what I was dealing with on the inside. But we kept going to the hospital every single day. And every single day, I see changes in my baby. She's starting to look like somebody now. She's starting to put on a couple of pounds here and there. Now, granted, she was 2 pounds, 3 ounces. 2 pounds, 9 ounces. And in order to even think about releasing her, she had to be at least 5 pounds or 5.5 pounds, something to that effect. But she was very tiny, very small. And I remember one particular night. Well, before I get there, we were home one Saturday because we were going to the hospital later on Saturdays because we could stay longer. We'd go to the hospital like around 2 and then just stay until they wouldn't let us, so I think visiting hours was over like 9 or 10 or something like that. So we just stay there the whole time. And we were home and none of us felt like cooking breakfast. And I just, I wanted one particular thing. My wife wanted something different. And I just like lashed out at her, man. Like, why the hell are you being so difficult and not just getting what I want? And she's like, I cussed at her. And I'll tell you, God is my witness. I never cuss. That's one thing I can say. I never cuss at my wife. I just don't do that. But I did that morning. She cussed me back out too, just so you guys know. But we don't cuss at each other. We don't. You guys know me. You guys know I curse a lot. But I don't curse at my wife. But man, all this frustration was just boiling inside of me, man. Cause it's like I couldn't see, we'd ask the doctors, like, do you know, you got any idea when we're looking at a release date? And they're like, no, well, because if we send her home now, she'd have to go home with oxygen and she'd have to do this, and we're just not comfortable. She's not maintaining weight the way we'd like, and she can't survive on her own outside of the incubator because they have to be able to hold their body temperatures at a certain temperature in order for them to even be considered going home. So it's like me and my wife, we never had long, consistent fights, but we were just, you could just see us just growing apart, man. Like something like that should have kept us really close, but it was driving a wedge between us. And it wasn't because of anything we did. She was dealing with the situation her way, and I was dealing with it my way. And then the breaking point, you guys know what my favorite book is. And there's a particular in the book of Job. This was around the time. This was when Job's friends. I want to say it was Job in the book of Job, chapter 42. I'm not sure of the verse, but it said that the Lord, and I'm just thinking of this out of my head, that the Lord turned the captivity of Job when he prayed for his friends. And I finally had that breaking moment. We were coming from the hospital one night. And I was just building up. I was pissed, man. I think something had happened. I think my daughter was having a spell to where she had a mucus plug. So no matter what they did, they couldn't get the oxygen they couldn't get her oxygen under control because she had this mucus plug, and no matter what they did, they couldn't get it under control. So again, we're just like watching my little baby just suffer as they're doing all type of stuff, and then they finally got it out, and I just blew up inside to where I had to walk out. I just walked out of the NICU and went and sat in the lobby. So we were going home, and at this time, we lived far from the hospital. It's not like now. Now we live really close to the hospital, but at the time we lived far from the hospital. So we're taking this long drive home, and we're not talking to each other. I'm looking straight at the road, and she's just down on her phone. And I'd never forget, I was listening to my favorite preacher of all time is G.E. Patterson. I was listening to a message from him called a prayer for revival. And at the end of the message, he did an altar call, and he started singing the song "Take Me Back." And I remember just pulling that car over and just yelled out this loud, audible yell, because the frustration had just boiled over so much. I couldn't take it anymore. I didn't know if I was going to have a daughter, but I felt like I was losing my wife also. And I just yelled out, man. And she just put her arms around me. And I promise you, from that night forward, everything started to turn around. That following week, we got to the hospital, and my timeline is probably a little off. This was 7 years ago. That following week, we went to the hospital, and they let us know that they were going to move her to the other side. And when you're in the NICU and you hear your child's being moved to the other side, that's one step closer to the door, to go out, to go home. She didn't need the incubator anymore. They put her in the crib, so she was out. She was out in the open. She didn't need the that's what they were called, bilirubin lights. She didn't need the bilirubin lights anymore. So she was in her crib. They still had the feeding tube on her. She still had the feeding tube. And but she was getting better. Things start getting easier. It became a part of life. In the first, I'm gonna say like the first month and a half, man, it was hard as hell. But like the last 20 days, it really started getting it never got easier, but it was more tolerable. To where about 20, 30 days, about the last 30 days. It started getting more easier. It became like, whereas it was hard in the beginning as being our daily routine, now it was just like, okay, she's your baby, you're taking care of your baby, you're just not taking care of her here. So, at home. So just be a parent. So I was able to hold her and, do all those things. She spent her first Easter in the NICU, but things were getting better. She still had the feeding tube, but things were getting better. Even after that situation, the relationship with me and my wife it started getting better, because I think then we started like really moving as a team. It wasn't like her crying in silence over here and me crying in silence over here. It was more so like, okay, we're together, we got to deal with this. Let's do it. And so one day, God, I wish I should ask my wife what day this was, because I know she has it written down. We go to the hospital, and I'm looking at my daughter, and it's funny because we didn't notice yet, because you so used to. So they have these feeding tubes on these babies. They either put them in their mouth or they run them in their nose. Hers was in her nose. And you're just so used to seeing it, so you don't notice if anything's different. So we're just sitting there looking, and I'm like, something looks different about her. And we're just looking like, oh crap, we could see her face now. That was the first time. God, I wish I knew the date of this. Ugh. That was her first time since she's been in the hospital that we were able to see her complete face, because they had taken the feeding tube out. And she was now able to she was eating on it. She was taking her bottles, and she was just getting stronger, man. Things start getting better. And she did have one relapse. I don't know what happened, and to this day nobody could tell us what happened. But it's like, for all the good things that she learned how to do, and she was able to maintain temperature and all that stuff, it's like one time everything just went to shit. And they even told us, her nurse told us that they even had to bag her. They had to use a little pump bag to try to help her breathe. We don't know what happened. It's just like she literally just, everything just went to hell. But she got through that. And fast forward to June. Fast forward to like June 11th. Now remember, I'm the one who does the morning checks. My wife does the night checks because she's staying up. And no different from what I've done the previous 70 plus days. I called the hospital, and I was talking to the nurse. I'm like, hey, I'm calling to check up on Leah Johnson. Leah, see how she's doing. And and the nurse was like, the guy too, I'll never forget his name, Richard. He was like, oh, he was a little dainty little fella. And he was like, oh, hey daddy, Leia's doing great. We just did her car seat test. I said, wait, what? They were like, yeah, we just did the car seat test. They're thinking about discharging her. I said, say that again. He said, yeah, normally when we're going to he said, well, when we're going to discharge babies, we have to do a car seat test. to see how they handle it. Now, granted, they told us they had no idea. They had no idea when she was gonna go home. And they told us that we had to come in and do a CPR. They want us to do CPR test class and all that. And so I hung up with him and I called my wife and I was like, listen, I just called a hospital and they told me that they're doing a car seat test for our baby girl. It looks like she might be coming home. I didn't see her face, but by the silence on the other end, I could only imagine what she was doing. So we get to the hospital that night. We do our CPR, and they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna do this, and we're setting the discharge date for June 12th, which was the day after. Well, so that was June 10th. So the day after that next day was gonna be the discharge date." And and all I kept hearing in my head was, "My grace is sufficient for you." My grace is sufficient for you. Man, I never forget that day. June 12th, 2015. We were signing those discharge papers. And our little baby was coming home. And as I'm pushing the stroller, no, actually her head nurse, her primary nurse was pushing the stroller down the hall, and I'm walking behind her, and my wife's on the other side. And I just kept hearing, "My grace is sufficient for you." Man, I don't know who's going to hear this, but I hope that this show that I did tonight, I mean, I told you all. I told you all. I told you everything. I hope that this show can reach someone and just give them just a little hope. That things may look bleak, things may look bad, but things do get better. There were a lot of babies that came in with my daughter that night. There were a lot of babies that were there before her. We watched babies get discharged, and their parents had to bring home oxygen machines. We watched babies have multiple surgeries in the span of those 77 days. But all praise to the Most High. When our baby left, she didn't need any oxygen machine. She didn't need anything else. They just told us to go. just go and take care of that baby. Man, I will say it was a scary ass experience because one thing about your baby being in the hospital, your baby's around professionals. So if anything happens, they know exactly what to do. But now that you have to be the parent and you have that baby by yourself, it's hard. If anything goes wrong, you got to know what to do. And that night, our daughter she couldn't breathe. She like legit couldn't breathe, man. And my wife is like freaking out. She didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do, but I just think like something just kicked in. And I was like, listen, you just spent 77 days in that hospital. Ain't no way in the hell something's going to happen to you in here. And I yanked her up and I put my mouth over her nose and I think she was full of cold. She couldn't breathe. And I sucked every bit of cold out of that baby that night. I didn't give a damn how nasty it was or whatever. That's my baby. That's my daughter. I helped make her. And damn it, I give my life trying to protect her. And I'll do whatever the hell I have to do to protect her and make sure that she's okay. And it just, I mean, man, she was so little, man, because she was barely 5 pounds. I mean, she was so little. The pictures of her, we saw her, I mean, her little ankles, the smallest pair of socks would just, she still would have so much space in them. So we took her to, I just went on vacation shortly after. So we were taking her on all her specialist visits. So remember the eye doctor that said that that her blood vessels didn't go all the way through and she probably was going to wear glasses or probably at some point need some type of corrective surgery. Well, when we took her back to him, he did what he had to do and he said, everything looks good here. See you next year. Remember that heart doctor that said she saw the hole in the heart and my daughter had a heart murmur and everything? When they hooked her up to those machines, the doctor said, I don't know what to tell you, but it's not there. It is not there. We took her to the endocrinologist and the same guy that told us that she was probably going to have some type of mental issues and some type of brain delays. At the time, it was still too early for him to detect because she had just come out. But a couple years later, we took her back to him, and he was like, "Hey, if you don't see a problem, I don't see a problem." He said, "There is nothing wrong with this child here." And I say that to say this: my grace is sufficient for you. And now here it is, a whole 7 years later. My daughter that was less than 3 pounds when she was born is now damn near a little over 80 pounds now. My daughter that they said probably would have mental, issues, learning developmental problems and things like that, is one of the tops in her class. So to those parents out there that have dealt or are going to end up dealing with a situation like this, I hope this show reaches you in time and lets you know there is hope. Things look bleak. Things are scary as hell, man. But you got to get those things under control because you have to be there for your baby. I spent the majority of the time building up anger. And funny thing, I realized I built up this anger because I thought that God was punishing my daughter because of things that I did in the past. That's how I was thinking. And I just built up all this anger, man. Well, I don't know if there's any. I think I told everything. I don't know. I mean, the show went way longer than I thought it was gonna go. I thought it would have been done about an hour ago, but it is what it is. Like I say, man, I'm just all praises to the Most High God that because there are some babies that didn't make it. Some babies had the exact same story, and their story didn't end up with a happy ending. But all praises that, our daughter made it, and our daughter's thriving, and, she's celebrating her 7th birthday, and it's just, she is the life of the party. She lights up any room that she walks in. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. And I remember in Father's Day, my first Father's Day, because she was home. She came home right before Father's Day. Father's Day was, I want to say, like June 19th or June, somewhere around there. Yeah, Father's Day was somewhere to that effect. And she came home June 12th. And it just so happened that I preached the Father's Day message that Sunday, that Father's Day. And in my closing, I remember telling everybody that I felt like the story of the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That we were in the fire. And the name of that message actually was, I See God in the Fire. Me and my wife and my little baby girl were in this fire. And as the fire kept getting hotter and hotter, just like those 3 Hebrew boys, when King Nebuchadnezzar looked in astonishment, he asked the men around him a question. He said, wait a minute, didn't we put 3 of them in? And the men replied, yeah, King, we threw 3 of them in. And the king said, well, how come I see a 4th man in there looking like the Son of God? And I remember telling those people in that church that day that you got another man in the fire with you if you put your trust in God. I truly believe that. Regardless of where life has taken me, and regardless of how I believe now, I still believe in the Most High God. And I know that He dispatched His angels in that fire with us as we were going through our trial. So I just hope that that this show will serve as some type of encouragement to someone. If you like the show, please leave a comment. Yeah, send me an email, straighttalkwithtrevor@gmail.com, or like us on Facebook at Straight Talk Society. join that group. I do like behind the scenes videos and things like that. A lot of I do little lives and things like that before I do shows. So just leave us a comment, man. Let me know how you like the show, or if you've been through a similar situation, send me a message. Let's talk about it. But that's it. So in closing, I'll leave you with these words. Always seek out the truth for yourself, because if not, you'll fall victim to other people's interpretation of them. Peace.
If you can't get enough of Straight Talk with Trevor, be sure to like our Facebook page. You'll get page-only exclusives like links to early shows and behind-the-scenes video footage. You can also participate in polls that might shape future shows. The best thing about our Facebook page is that's where you can get in direct contact with Trevor. You can also leave show topics, reviews, or even request to be a guest on the show. Again, like us on Facebook, and thank you for your continued support.